Imagine standing on the Day of Judgment, a day so overwhelming that even the greatest of prophets would tremble. But amidst the chaos, you see a group of people walking calmly, confidently, straight into Jannah, paradise. No questioning, no accounting. Have you ever wondered who these remarkable individuals are? Could you be one of them? Welcome, dear brothers and sisters. In today's video, we'll explore one of the most hopeful and awe-inspiring teachings of Islam. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, described a select group of people who will be granted entry to Jannah without any questioning or reckoning. Who are these people? What did they do to achieve such an honor? And most importantly, how can we strive to be among them? Stay with me as we uncover these answers, using the wisdom of the Qur'an and the teachings of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. By the end of this video, you might just see yourself reflected in this extraordinary group. 1. The Hadith that sparks hope. The narration of this hadith instills a deep sense of hope and longing in the hearts of believers. It is recorded in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "From my ummah, 70,000 will enter paradise without being called to account or punished. They are those who do not seek Ruqyah, do not believe in bad omens, and do not use cauterization, but they put their trust in their Lord." Let us take a moment to absorb the profoundness of this statement. The mention of 70,000 is intriguing, specific yet symbolic. Why 70,000? Could it signify the vast mercy of Allah while also emphasizing the exclusivity of these chosen individuals? The number may make us pause, but the essence lies in the qualities these people embody. The individuals described here are not just any group. They possess qualities that reveal a unique relationship with Allah, one of complete reliance and trust. Each characteristic mentioned is a reflection of pure faith and a heart that seeks Allah alone in all matters. Let us delve deeper into these qualities to understand what makes them so exceptional and how we can strive to emulate them. Firstly, they do not seek Ruqyah. Ruqyah, or seeking spiritual healing through supplications and recitations, is a prophetic practice and entirely permissible in Islam. However, these individuals reach a level of tawakkul, trust in Allah, so profound that they refrain from even asking others for this form of healing. Their hearts are solely attached to Allah, and they depend directly on Him for their needs. This is not to say that seeking Ruqyah is discouraged, but their choice reflects an unparalleled trust in Allah's power and decree. It reminds us of the Quranic verse, "And whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him." Surah At-Talaq 65:3. This raises a question for us to ponder. In moments of vulnerability, do we turn to Allah with full conviction, or do we look for other means first, reserving trust in Him as a last resort? Secondly, they do not believe in bad omens. In pre-Islamic Arabia, people were deeply superstitious, often letting arbitrary signs dictate their actions. This belief in bad omens, or tiara, is rooted in fear and a lack of understanding of Allah's ultimate control over everything. The individuals described in this hadith, however, have hearts free from such misconceptions. They know that no misfortune or blessing occurs except by Allah's permission. This aligns perfectly with the Quranic reminder, "No disaster strikes except by permission of Allah, and whoever believes in Allah, He will guide his heart." Surah At-Taghabun 64:11. Reflect on how often we let superstitions creep into our lives. Do we avoid certain numbers, dates, or actions out of fear that they might bring bad luck? The faith of these people reminds us to purify our hearts and trust fully in Allah's wisdom and decree. Lastly, they do not use cauterization. In the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, cauterization, a method of burning the skin to treat wounds, was a common medical practice. While not forbidden, it was considered a last resort treatment due to its painful nature. The people described in this hadith avoid such measures, not because they are inherently wrong, but because their reliance on Allah is so complete that they entrust Him entirely with their healing and outcomes. This reflects a level of patience and trust that is awe-inspiring. Together, these traits paint a picture of individuals whose lives are deeply rooted in their relationship with Allah. They rely on Him without hesitation, reject any belief or practice that contradicts His oneness, and face challenges with unwavering faith. The hadith invites us to reflect. Could we strive to embody these qualities? What steps can we take to strengthen our trust in Allah and align ourselves with the characteristics of these blessed people? This narration is not just a description, it is an invitation to strive for a heart free from dependence on anything other than Allah, an invitation to trust Him fully, no matter the circumstances, and above all, an invitation to hope, for Allah's mercy is boundless, and His rewards are for those who seek Him with sincerity. 2. They do not seek Ruqyah. Ruqyah refers to the practice of reciting specific supplications or incantations for healing, often over someone who is unwell or facing a distressing situation. While Ruqyah is entirely permissible in Islam, it's important to note that there are two levels of reliance involved. On one hand, seeking Ruqyah as a form of healing acknowledges that Allah has granted certain individuals the knowledge and ability to offer such supplications. On the other hand, there is a group of people mentioned in this hadith who elevate their trust in Allah to such a degree that they choose not to seek Ruqyah from others, but instead rely solely on Allah for their healing. This distinction does not imply that Ruqyah is wrong or unnecessary. After all, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself practiced Ruqyah, offering spiritual healing to those in need. However, the individuals described in this hadith represent a higher level of tawakkul, trust and reliance in Allah. Their hearts are so firmly anchored in their belief in Allah's sovereignty that they do not feel the need to turn to others for help in times of illness or difficulty. They understand that while seeking Ruqyah is allowed, their primary dependence should be on Allah alone. This level of trust challenges us to reflect on our own behavior when faced with difficulties. Think about times when you've experienced personal hardship or distress. In those moments, did you instinctively turn to Allah first, placing your trust in Him to handle your concerns? Or did you find yourself seeking other solutions, whether medical, social, or material, before turning to Allah? This group of people serves as a reminder to place Allah at the center of our lives, making Him the first point of reliance rather than the last. The Qur'an reinforces this idea of relying on Allah in Surah Al-Ankabut, and whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. Quran 29-65. This verse invites us to place our complete trust in Allah, knowing that He is the ultimate provider and protector. It calls us to shift our mindset from relying on external means first, to remembering that no matter what we face, Allah's power and mercy are more than sufficient for all of our needs. So let us ask ourselves, when challenges arise, do we turn to Allah first, trusting that He is the one who will provide for us? Or do we rely too heavily on the world around us? This hadith calls us to strengthen our hearts and minds, to remind ourselves that true reliance on Allah is the path to peace and fulfillment. 3. They do not believe in bad omens. Superstitions, whether it's a black cat crossing your path, a broken mirror bringing bad luck, or certain numbers believed to be unlucky, are deeply ingrained in many cultures. While they may seem like harmless traditions, in Islam, these superstitions carry significant spiritual consequences. Belief in bad omens reflects a reliance on forces other than Allah, which undermines the core principle of Tawheed, the oneness of Allah, a fundamental aspect of a Muslim's faith. In Islam, our belief is clear. Nothing can influence our lives except the will of Allah. This includes both the good and the bad that happen to us. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, addressed this directly, saying, "There is no adwa, contagion without Allah's decree, no tayara, belief in bad omens, no hama, evil omen in the form of a bird or owl, and no safa, superstitions about the month of Safar." Sahih al-Bukhari. This hadith is a direct refutation of all superstitions that suggest an external force, be it an animal, an event, or even a time of the year, can determine the course of one's life. The Prophet, peace be upon him, reminds us that these beliefs are unfounded because all things, whether they appear good or bad to us, are under Allah's control. There is no such thing as a bad omen that can shape our fate outside of Allah's divine will. The individuals described in the hadith of the 70,000 have a heart that is completely free of such doubts. They do not allow fear of external omens to cloud their faith in Allah's decree. When faced with a difficult situation or a seemingly negative sign, they do not panic or turn to superstitions for comfort. Instead, they hold firmly to the belief that everything, whether it brings joy or sorrow, has been ordained by Allah, and that His plan is always for the best. This group's unwavering trust in Allah's control over all aspects of life is a model for us all. How often do we find ourselves concerned about signs or fearful of the unknown? Do we check the stars, read into coincidences, or worry about things outside of our control? These individuals remind us that true faith in Allah means trusting in His plan without being swayed by baseless superstitions. Reflect on your own life. When things go wrong, do you blame an unlucky event, a certain date, or even a passing moment? Or do you remind yourself that everything is within Allah's will and that He is the best of planners? This is the strength of faith we should strive for, relying solely on Allah's wisdom and rejecting the influence of anything else. By rejecting bad omens, these individuals show us that Tawheed is not just a belief in the oneness of Allah, but a trust in His ultimate control over our lives. It teaches us to approach each moment with peace, knowing that Allah's will is always in our best interest. 4. They do not use cauterization. Cauterization is an ancient medical practice where the skin is intentionally burned to treat wounds or stop bleeding. While this practice is permissible in Islam and was even used during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the group of 70,000 mentioned in the hadith chooses to avoid it. Their decision is not a rejection of medical care, but rather a reflection of their unwavering reliance on Allah for healing. The essence of this practice is not in the avoidance of medical treatment, but in the deeper lesson of where their ultimate trust lies. In Islam, seeking medical help is not discouraged. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, encouraged his followers to seek remedies for illness, acknowledging that Allah has created cures within the world. However, these individuals go a step further by showing that their faith in healing does not depend on the methods or the people involved, but on Allah alone. They recognize that the doctor, the treatment, and the medicine are all tools created by Allah, and it is He who grants healing through them. This act of avoiding cauterization, even though it is a permissible and available method, demonstrates the depth of their tawakkul, trust in Allah. It's a powerful reminder that while medical advancements are a blessing, true healing comes from Allah, and He is the ultimate source of all cures. Just as the Qur'an says, "And when I am ill, it is He, Allah, who heals me." Surah Ash-Shu'ara 26:80. This verse beautifully encapsulates the perspective of those who place their complete trust in Allah when it comes to healing. They recognize that doctors and treatments are simply means, but it is Allah who has the power to cure. The act of relying on Allah rather than the means themselves is a testament to their faith. This calls us to reflect on our own approach to health and healing. When we fall ill or face challenges, where do we place our trust? Do we place all our hope in the hands of the doctor, the medicine or the healing process? Or do we remember that these are just means, and it is Allah's will and mercy that ultimately governs our health and well-being? In moments of sickness or suffering, how often do we remember to pray for Allah's healing first, before seeking other solutions? Do we acknowledge that, even in the face of medical treatment, it is Allah who grants the cure? This group of 70,000 embodies the profound belief that healing comes from Allah, and that their trust is placed firmly in Him. 5. They place their complete trust in Allah. The most defining trait of these 70,000 individuals is their unwavering tawakkul, a complete and total trust in Allah. They live their lives with an unshakable faith, facing every uncertainty with a calm and serene heart, secure in the knowledge that Allah's plan is always for their ultimate good, regardless of the circumstances. They do not fear the future, nor do they regret the past, because they know that their lives are in the hands of the best of planners, Allah. This complete trust in Allah goes beyond mere belief. It is a deep inner conviction that whatever happens, happens by Allah's will, and that His decree is always the best, even when it is difficult to understand. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has taught us that trusting in Allah with all our affairs brings peace, and this is evident in the actions of those who have this profound reliance. The Qur'an beautifully encapsulates this concept in Surah Al-Furqan, and rely upon the ever-living who does not die. Qur'an 25:58. This verse offers profound comfort, reminding us that our ultimate reliance should be on Allah, the Eternal, the one who is never subject to death or decay. Everything in this world is fleeting, from our wealth to our health, to our very lives. But Allah is ever-living and ever-present, and He is the one who sustains all things. What better being to place our trust in than the one who never changes and whose wisdom and mercy are infinite? Now, imagine a life where fear and anxiety no longer hold sway over your heart. Think about a life where you do not constantly worry about what may or may not happen, because you know that Allah has already determined the best outcome for you. Picture a life where regret does not haunt you, because you trust that every event, every trial, every moment is part of Allah's perfect plan for you. Wouldn't that be liberating? To face each day with peace, knowing that Allah is in control, to approach challenges with the confidence that you are not alone, and that the one who created you is there to guide you, protect you, and provide for you. This is the type of trust that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, encouraged us to develop. It is a trust that frees us from the burden of anxiety, because it acknowledges that we are not in control of the outcomes, but Allah is, and His will is always in our best interest. This trust is not about ignoring problems or hardships. Rather, it is about facing them with the belief that Allah's wisdom surpasses our understanding, and that whatever happens will ultimately be for our benefit, whether we see it immediately or not. In our daily lives, we are constantly faced with decisions, challenges, and uncertainties. The question we must ask ourselves is, do we rely on Allah first, or do we turn to worldly solutions and means? Do we remember to place our trust in Allah's plan, or do we let fear and doubt take hold? The individuals described in this hadith remind us that true peace and serenity come from placing our trust fully in the hands of Allah, who is always with us and who always knows what is best for us. 6. Expanding the number beyond 70,000. You might be wondering, what if I'm not among the 70,000? This is a natural question, and it's one that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has already addressed in another narration, offering us great hope and encouragement. In Musnad Ahmad, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "With each 1,000 there will be 70,000 more, and 3 handfuls of my Lord." This narration clarifies that the number is not limited to just 70,000, but is far greater. The phrase 3 handfuls of my Lord symbolizes an immeasurable increase. indicating that the group of those who will enter Jannah without account or punishment is far beyond the original 70,000. This serves as a reminder that Allah's mercy is vast and His generosity knows no bounds. It invites all of us to hope that we too could be among this honored group, regardless of how small or insignificant we may feel in the grand scheme of things. The doors of mercy are wide open, and it's never too late to strive to meet the qualities that would grant us entry into paradise. So how can we apply the lessons from this hadith to our own lives, ensuring we're on the right path to be counted among those who earn Allah's pleasure? Here are some practical steps that we can begin implementing today. Strengthen your Tawheed. Tawheed, the belief in the oneness of Allah, is the foundation of our faith. To strengthen your Tawheed, take time to study and reflect on Allah's names and attributes. Delve into His qualities of mercy, power and wisdom as described in the Qur'an. The more we understand Allah's greatness, the stronger our connection with Him becomes. Knowing Allah's names deeply helps us develop a more intimate relationship with Him and reminds us to place our trust solely in Him. Develop tawakkul, reliance on Allah. Tawakkul is placing your trust in Allah while also taking the necessary steps in the material world. In moments of difficulty, remember that Allah's wisdom is beyond our understanding. We may not always see the immediate benefits of certain challenges or setbacks, but we trust that everything is part of Allah's perfect plan for us. To develop tawakkul, remind yourself daily that no matter what happens, it is Allah's will, and His plan is always for the best. This mindset helps to remove fear, worry, and anxiety from our hearts. Avoid superstition. Superstitions can creep into our lives in many forms, whether through cultural practices, societal beliefs, or even casual thoughts. As Muslims, we must rid ourselves of anything that contradicts the pure monotheism of Tawheed. The belief in bad omens, or that certain things can influence our fate outside of Allah's will, goes against the foundation of our faith. Examine your beliefs and practices. Are there superstitions you still hold on to? Seek knowledge and reflect on the teachings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, that remind us to place our complete trust in Allah alone. Rely on Allah first. In sickness or health, in times of ease or hardship, our first response should always be to turn to Allah. While seeking medical help and using worldly means are important, they should never replace our trust in Allah's ability to cure, heal, and provide. In moments of illness, financial hardship, or personal struggles, remind yourself to pray first and trust that Allah's will is always in your best interest. Remember the hadith, "And whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him." Qur'an 65:3. Ask yourself. Finally, take a moment to reflect deeply. If today were the day of judgment, would you possess the qualities of these 70,000? Would your heart be free from superstition, filled with trust in Allah, and focused solely on Him? Would you be relying on Allah first, not as a last resort? It's important to ask ourselves these questions regularly, as they help us stay focused on our goal of earning Allah's mercy and entering paradise. The more we strive to embody these qualities, the closer we come to the mercy of Allah. Now close your eyes and imagine. You're standing on the day of judgment. The sun is blazing above, and everyone around you is consumed with fear. Suddenly, a voice calls out, "Enter Jannah," without questioning or reckoning. You walk forward, part of that blessed group. What a gift, what an honor. Dear brothers and sisters, Allah's mercy is vast, and His promise is true. Strive to be among these individuals by cultivating unwavering faith, trust, and reliance on Allah alone. Reflect on your daily actions, purify your intentions, and turn back to Him with sincerity. If this message inspired you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, spread it, and let it remind us all of the immense hope Islam offers. And don't forget to subscribe for more reminders about our beautiful faith. What do you think? Could you be one of the 70,000? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue this beautiful conversation. Until next time, may Allah guide us, protect us, and grant us entry to Jannah without reckoning. Ameen.